If one day your cat is sitting on the edge of a chair, on the windowsill or right in the middle of the floor, then it lifts its head, looks straight at you, and slowly blinks, you might smile and immediately think of something very familiar. Ah, it's giving me a cat kiss. That thought isn't entirely wrong. On the internet, people often call that slow blink a cat kiss, the sweetest sign of affection a cat can give to a human. But is the story really that simple? Or is there something deeper behind that gentle blink? Something so subtle that most of us only notice the cute surface and miss the real meaning beneath it. Because for cats, eye contact is never just eye contact. In their world, looking, avoiding a look, narrowing the eyes, widening them, turning the head away, or blinking slowly are all behaviors that can carry very clear messages. A cat doesn't need words to say that it feels tense, curious, cautious, trusting, or simply wants to keep the peace. It communicates through its body, through distance, through the rhythm of its movements, and especially through its eyes. If you want to truly understand what your cat is saying when it looks at you and slowly blinks, you have to start with something very basic. In the language of cats, eye contact is far more serious than we often realize. Humans are used to looking at each other when we talk. For us, eye contact is often associated with attention, sincerity, and connection. But for many animals, especially predators and territorial species, staring directly is not neutral at all. It can mean pressure, it can mean a challenge, it can be a test. And cats are one of the animals that are particularly sensitive to this. When two unfamiliar cats encounter each other, they rarely jump straight into a fight. Instead, they may stand still, bodies slightly tense, ears pointed forward or angled sideways, eyes wide open, staring intently at one another. That look isn't casual. It's an invisible tension test. Who backs down first? Who looks away first? Who breaks the stare? Every small shift carries meaning. This is exactly why a slow blink from a cat that is looking at you becomes something special. Because instead of maintaining maximum alertness, the cat is doing the opposite. It is lowering the pressure of eye contact. It is softening the moment of facing you. It is deliberately easing a signal that could otherwise carry tension or control. For an animal that survives through constant awareness, that gesture is not meaningless. It is a choice. And in that moment, the slow blink begins to carry the meaning of trust. In other words, when a cat slowly blinks in front of you, it isn't simply being cute. It is saying that at least in that moment, it does not see you as a threat. It feels safe enough to lower its guard slightly. It feels relaxed enough that it doesn't need to keep its eyes wide open to monitor you every second. From a cat's perspective, this is far more significant than most humans realize, because affection in a cat's language is rarely loud or dramatic. It doesn't arrive in big displays. It appears in quiet moments when the cat allows itself to be less guarded around you. This is why many people call the slow blink a cat's kiss. The name makes sense because it captures part of the feeling of that moment: gentle, affectionate, calm, and intimate. But if we want to be truly precise, a slow blink might not be a kiss in the human sense. It's closer to a subtle message that says, "I'm comfortable around you," or even deeper, "I trust that I'm safe with you." And in the world of cats, that is a very powerful statement. However, because this behavior is often labeled as a kiss, many people begin to interpret it too simply. They assume that whenever a cat slow blinks, it must mean intense love, deep attachment, or overwhelming happiness. But the truth is more nuanced than that. Our cat might slow blink because it feels comfortable. It might slow blink to soften an interaction. It might slow blink because it is relaxed and communicating in the calmest way it knows. All of these meanings are positive, but they are not always exactly the same. For example, imagine your cat stretched out on the edge of a sofa in the warm light of the afternoon sun. Its body is relaxed, front paws gently extended, ears resting in a neutral position, tail almost motionless. You look at it. It looks back at you. Then it slowly blinks. In that situation, the blink is almost certainly a sign of peace. The cat doesn't need anything from you. It isn't asking for food. It isn't uncomfortable. It is simply sharing a moment of calm with you. This is probably the state closest to what humans would describe as affection. But now imagine a different scenario. Your cat is perched somewhere slightly uncertain, perhaps on the back of a chair or shortly after hearing a strange noise in the house. It looks at you, not overly tense, but not completely relaxed either. Then it slowly blinks and turns its head away. In this case, the blink is still a positive signal, but it leans more toward social communication than affection. It is almost like the cat saying, "I don't want this to turn into a problem. I choose peace." This isn't a warning. It's almost the opposite. It's a way of cooling down a situation that carries a bit of uncertainty, and this is an important point. A slow blink is rarely a warning signal. If a cat truly wants to warn you, its body language usually looks very different. The eyes may open wider, the pupils may change dramatically, the facial muscles tighten, the whiskers push forward or pull back, the ears flatten or turn sideways, the tail may lash sharply, the body may lower or stiffen. In that state, a cat does not typically soften eye contact with a slow blink. It is observing, it is calculating, it is telling you that your distance, the situation, or your actions are making it uncomfortable. A cat's warning usually comes through intense focus, not relaxation. And this is where many people get confused. They isolate the eyes from the rest of the body. They see a squint or a blink and immediately assign it a fixed meaning. But cats do not communicate in isolated pieces. They communicate with their entire body. A slow blink that appears on a relaxed body means something completely different from a small eyelid movement that happens when the ears are already flattened. The body is stiff and the tail is flicking. That's why, if you truly want to know whether your cat is sending you a kiss or communicating something else entirely, you can't look only at the eyes. You have to look at the whole picture. Interestingly, many cats learn to use the slow blink, especially with humans. In the wild, adult cats don't spend much time sitting and gazing at each other slowly, the way we often see in cute online videos. With humans, however, things are different. Over time, cats realize that we are creatures living alongside them, creatures that do not react like other cats, do not process eye contact the same way, and can participate in a slower, calmer kind of communication. Gradually, between cats and humans, a kind of hybrid language forms, and within that language, the slow blink becomes a very special bridge. You can see this most clearly when you try responding to it. You may have done it before without even noticing. Your cat looks at you, you smile, you unconsciously blink slowly in return, and then the cat blinks again or moves a little closer. The moment is small, but it's remarkable, because it shows that cats are not only sending signals, they are receiving them too. They are participating in a real exchange. It's no coincidence that many long-time cat owners consider the slow blink a kind of secret language between them and their pets. It's quiet, it's not dramatic, yet it carries a surprisingly deep sense of closeness. Once you understand this, you start to realize that cats are not nearly as cold or distant as the stereotype suggests. They simply don't express themselves the way dogs do. Dogs might show joy with their whole bodies, barking, wagging their tails wildly, rushing toward you with explosive energy. Cats tend to be far more subtle. A cat's trust appears in quieter choices, lying on its side near you, rubbing its head against your leg, sitting with its back turned but still staying beside you, sleeping within your reach or looking at you and slowly blinking. These gestures are small, but for a cat, they represent significant investments in a feeling of safety. But what about the possibility of a warning? Could a cat ever look at you and slowly blink while actually communicating something negative? In most situations, that's very unlikely. The slow blink itself is naturally a signal that lowers tension, reduces pressure, and communicates calm or peaceful connection. If something seems like a warning, it usually doesn't come from the blink itself. It comes from the human, ignoring the wider context. For example, a cat that is tired, has slightly irritated eyes, feels sleepy, or is mildly uncomfortable might close its eyes longer than usual. If you glance quickly, you might interpret that as a social slow blink. In reality, it may not be a kiss or a warning at all. It may simply be a physical state. This is why it's important not to romanticize every blink a cat makes. Another detail worth mentioning is that a slow blink is not always an invitation to interact. Sometimes a cat looks at you, slowly blinks, and then simply turns away and goes back to sleep. That doesn't mean the cat is cold or that you misunderstood the signal. In fact, it may simply be saying, "Everything is fine, I'm relaxed, and now I'm going back to resting." This is a very cat-like form of positivity, peaceful, but not necessarily followed by further action. Humans often interpret affection as something that must produce an immediate response: hugging, petting, leaning in closer. Cats don't always operate that way. Sometimes the closest gesture they can offer is simply showing you that they feel no need to be guarded around you. And this is exactly where the biggest misunderstanding often appears. Many people see a cat's slow blink